Remember when pubs weren't gastropubs? Today we're diving into 15 old pub snacks only true Brits remember. Those unpretentious nibbles that defined British drinking culture. Did you know pickled eggs were once so popular that pubs went through 500 weekly? Yet these culinary time capsules vanished faster than a 20 at last orders. Here's the twist though. These supposedly outdated snacks are making millionaire entrepreneurs out of artisan producers who've rediscovered what your granddad knew: simple pleasures are profitable. From pork scratchings class divide to Scotch eggs never being Scottish, we're uncovering Britain's most underrated pub grub. Pickled eggs, those ghostly orbs floating in murky vinegar that once graced every British pub counter like edible decoration. These protein-packed spheres weren't just bar snacks. They were working-class superfood before superfood was even a word. The beauty lay in their simplicity. Hard-boiled eggs submerged in malt vinegar with onions, creating a preservation method that kept them edible for months without refrigeration. What most people don't realise is that pickled eggs became popular in British pubs during the Victorian era when they were considered a luxury item. Factory workers would save up their pennies for a Friday night egg, which provided more protein than they'd typically get in a week. The vinegar helped neutralise alcohol's effects on an empty stomach, making them the original hangover prevention method. The controversial bit? Upper-class Victorians actually started the trend, serving quail eggs pickled in champagne vinegar at their soirees, before the working class adopted it with chicken eggs and malt vinegar. The decline tells us something profound about modern Britain. They disappeared not because they tasted bad, properly made ones are tangy and strangely addictive, but because they became associated with old men's pubs that gentrification swept aside. Today, they're making a comeback in hipster establishments at 5 times the price, marketed as heritage protein spheres. Before we dive into the next delicacy that'll have you either salivating or squirming, make sure you hit that subscribe button, because later I'm revealing which classic pub snack was actually invented by mistake in a monastery. And trust me, it's not the one you're thinking of. Nothing divides a room quite like jellied eels. Those glistening, gelatinous chunks that were once the pride of East London and now serve as a litmus test for authentic Cockney credentials. This isn't just food, it's edible history. Dating back to the 18th century, when the Thames was so packed with eels, they were the only affordable protein for London's poorest residents. The preparation is fascinatingly gruesome. Fresh eels chopped into rounds, boiled with vinegar, and cooled until natural gelatin from the bones creates that signature wobbling jelly. The texture divides opinions violently. Advocates describe it as silky and delicate, while detractors compare it to fishy rubber bands suspended in aspic. The psychological barrier of seeing those eel spine cross-sections certainly doesn't help matters. Here's something mind-blowing. During World War II, the government classified eel and pie shops as essential services, keeping them open during the Blitz. The nutritional profile is actually impressive, high in omega-3, vitamin B12 and protein. The downfall came from overfishing, leading to near extinction of European eels, combined with changing tastes that favoured less challenging textures. Today's remaining jellied eel shops are heritage sites rather than thriving businesses, with most British eels now exported to the Netherlands and Asia. Traditional pork scratchings, not those puffy manufactured things, but proper tooth-threatening chunks that could double as weapons in a pinch. These aren't snacks. They're endurance tests disguised as food, separating committed pub-goers from casual drinkers with every jaw-aching crunch. The authentic version involves pig skin with fat attached, scored deeply, salted heavily, then deep-fried or roasted until reaching a consistency between leather and concrete. The result is so hard that Midlands dentists, scratching's spiritual home, reported notable spikes in cracked molars on Saturday mornings. The flavour, though, is incomparable. Pure concentrated pork essence with enough salt to preserve a small mammal and satisfying greasiness that coats your mouth for hours. What's fascinating is the class controversy surrounding them. In the 1970s to 80s, they were decidedly working-class fare, sold warm from behind bars in grease-spotted paper bags. Then celebrity chefs discovered them, started calling them pork crunch or chicharrones, and suddenly they appeared on gastropub menus at 15 quid a bowl, garnished with microgreens and truffle oil. The irony is fancy versions lack the tooth-endangering authenticity that made originals memorable. Real scratchings should require commitment, maybe dental insurance, and definitely a strong pint to wash them down. They're British stubbornness in edible form. The humble pork pie represents the pinnacle of British pub snack engineering. That sturdy hot water pastry fortress protecting seasoned pork and mysterious jelly. Forget mass-produced petrol station versions. Proper pub pork pies were hand-raised, meaning the pastry was literally moulded by hand around a wooden dolly while warm, creating walls thick enough to survive a mineshaft journey. The controversial aspect nobody discusses is the jelly. That clear, wobbling substance filling gaps between meat and pastry isn't just moisture. It's made from boiled pig trotters and originally preserved pies for weeks without refrigeration. The Melton Mowbray pork pie, which gained protected geographical status in 2009 like champagne, must contain uncured pork, giving it a distinctive grey colour that horrifies Americans but delights purists. The meat must be chopped, not minced, creating chunky, substantial texture. Here's an astounding fact. During the 1800s, pork pies were so valuable they had their own transportation insurance policies. Stagecoach companies guaranteed safe delivery of wedding pork pies, some weighing 20 pounds, with compensation for damage. The decline of traditional pub pork pies correlates with 1990s food safety regulations, which made sourcing from local producers harder. Those room temperature pies under glass domes on pub counters, slowly developing their own ecosystems, became health inspector nightmares. Despite the name, Scotch eggs are about as Scottish as sushi. These golden orbs of sausage-wrapped egg weren't invented in Scotland, but most likely by London's Fortnum and Mason in 1738, as travelling snacks for wealthy coach passengers, possibly inspired by the Mughlai dish Nargisi kofta brought back by returning colonials. The construction of proper Scotch eggs is architectural marvel meets culinary challenge. Perfect specimens require soft-boiled eggs with runny yolks, wrapped in seasoned sausage meat, coated in breadcrumbs, then deep-fried, achieving crispy exteriors while keeping yolks molten. Pub versions, however, were usually hard-boiled affairs, sitting in display cases with cricket ball structural integrity and similar moisture content. Yet somehow, after several pints, they became inexplicably appealing. The controversial truth: Scotch eggs were once so posh they graced Queen Victoria's birthday celebrations, garnished with caviar using quail eggs instead of chicken. The working-class appropriation of this upper-class delicacy beautifully exemplifies British cultural osmosis. During 2020's pandemic, Scotch eggs briefly became political footballs when classified as substantial meals, allowing pubs to remain open, sparking fierce debates about what constitutes substantiality and whether Scotch eggs philosophically qualified as meals. Sales increased 140% during this period, proving nothing sells British food quite like bureaucratic absurdity. Those spiral-shelled sea snails that once defined the British seaside experience represent perhaps the most dramatic fall from grace in pub snack history. These chewy mollusks, typically served cold with vinegar and white pepper, were once so popular that whelk stalls outnumbered fish and chip shops in coastal towns during the Victorian era. The texture of whelks is diplomatically called acquired taste. Imagine a rubber eraser marinated in seawater and you're halfway there, but that misses the point entirely. Whelks were never about refined dining. They embodied sustenance, tradition, and peculiarly British culinary machismo. Proper consumption involved picking them out with pins, dousing them in malt vinegar, and chewing thoughtfully while staring out to sea, contemplating life's mysteries or pretending enjoyment for your mates. Here's the medical mystery. Victorian coastal doctors prescribed whelks for various ailments, believing their high iodine content beneficial. While medically dubious, whelks are surprisingly nutritious, packed with protein, virtually fat-free, loaded with vitamin B12 and magnesium. Their disappearance from pubs isn't mysterious. Overfishing, changing tastes, and several 1970s food poisoning scares, improperly stored whelks, harbour nasty bacteria, killed the trade overnight. Today, most British whelks are exported to Asia, where they're considered delicacies, fetching prices that would make Victorian sellers weep. Loving this nostalgic journey through Britain's forgotten pub grub. We're only halfway through, and coming up next, I'm going to reveal which seaside snack was once prescribed by doctors as medicine. Seriously, smash that like button if you're brave enough to admit you've actually eaten and enjoyed at least 3 of these so far. Mushy peas in pubs weren't the bright green fish and chips accompaniment. They were standalone snacks, served hot in mugs with mint sauce and spoons, representing ultimate no-nonsense northern comfort food. These weren't just mashed peas, but marrow-fat peas, soaked overnight with bicarbonate of soda, creating that distinctive grey-green colour and unique texture, neither quite solid nor liquid. The preparation process is alchemical transformation of humble dried peas into something inspiring either devotion or revulsion. Bicarbonate breaks down pectin in pea skins, creating signature mushiness while maintaining structural integrity. Adding salt, sugar, and sometimes mint creates a simultaneously sweet, savoury, and oddly refreshing flavour profile. Proper pub mushy peas had porridge-thick consistency that could stand spoons upright. What's remarkable is the cultural divide surrounding them. In northern working men's clubs, they were served for pennies as cheap, filling snacks that absorbed substantial alcohol. Meanwhile, southerners viewed them with suspicion reserved for black pudding and tripe. The nutritional profile is impressive. High protein, fibre, surprisingly low calories. The decline came with 1990s pub culture homogenisation, when chains replaced locals and regional specialties gave way to nationally approved menus. Today, finding proper mushy peas in southern pubs is nearly impossible, though hipster establishments occasionally serve deconstructed pea foam at astronomical prices. The pub sausage roll occupied unique snack taxonomy, neither quite meal nor simple nibble, but something indefinably between. These weren't pale, flaccid supermarket things, but hefty cylinders of seasoned pork mince wrapped in buttery, flaky pastry that could sustain serious drinking sessions. The golden age was 1970s to 80s, when they sat in heated display cabinets developing distinctive dried-out quality that somehow enhanced rather than diminished appeal. Pastry developed leathery exteriors while meat reached paint-stripping temperatures. Grease pooled in bottoms, creating soggy bases that were either best or worst parts depending on perspective and inebriation levels. The controversial element nobody discusses is meat content. Legal requirements state pork sausage rolls must contain minimum 42% pork, but yesteryear's pub versions operated in regulatory grey areas where pork generously described mysterious meat paste within. Yet somehow they were delicious. The combination of salt, fat, and questionable spices created flavours modern high-meat content artisan versions can't replicate. The decline came with food safety regulations killing heated cabinets, those beautiful incubators of bacterial possibility and flavour development. Modern sausage rolls must be kept properly hot or cold, eliminating that dangerous middle ground where pub sausage rolls thrived. They were risk made edible, and we're poorer without them. Here's scandalous truth. The ploughman's lunch, that supposedly ancient combination of cheese, bread, pickles and salad, was invented by the Milk Marketing Board in the 1960s as a campaign to sell more cheese. This traditional meal evoking medieval field workers is younger than the Beatles. The genius lay in simplicity and adaptability. Chunks of cheddar, crusty bread, pickled onions, apple and chutney required no cooking, minimal preparation, and could sit in fridges indefinitely without spoiling. The Cheese Bureau, yes, real thing, spent millions promoting it as authentic British fare, even funding a 1983 film called The Ploughman's Lunch, cementing cultural consciousness. What's particularly brilliant, while the name and formal presentation were invented, components genuinely were traditional pub fare, just never served together as designated lunch. Farm workers did eat bread and cheese, pubs did serve pickles, but combining them into marketable meals was pure 1960s advertising innovation. The irony is this fake tradition became real through repetition. By the 1970s, no self-respecting pub operated without offering ploughmans, and tourists expected quintessentially British cuisine. Decline came not from fraudulent origin exposure, but from hot food's rise in pubs, as microwaves and gastropub culture made cold lunches seem outdated. Marketing created tradition, then progress killed it. Pickled onions deserve recognition as unsung pub culture heroes. Those eye-watering orbs that could clear sinuses from across rooms and probably violated chemical weapons treaties. These weren't mild, sweet supermarket versions, but industrial-strength silverskins that could strip paint and possibly tooth enamel. The pickling process resembled controlled chemical warfare. Small onions soaked in salt water for days, then transferred to malt vinegar, spiked with enough spices to make eyes water just thinking about them. Results were onions retaining crunch but delivering vinegar punches that could wake the dead. Eating was full-body experience. Initial crunch, vinegar explosion, delayed onion burn, then lingering aftershock no beer could wash away. Social dynamics of consumption were fascinating, almost exclusively eaten by older men treating them as honour badges, proof of constitutions and refined palates. Women rarely ate them publicly, not due to taste but because resulting breath cleared rooms faster than fire alarms. The decline correlates with British vinegar production decline. Modern versions use diluted acetic acid rather than proper malt vinegar, creating cleaner but less complex flavours. Old ones, made with traditional brewing vinegar, contained compounds modern food science would probably ban, but which gave them distinctive, room-clearing character. They were chemical warfare you could eat, and pubs were braver places with them. Scampi Fries occupy unique positions as gateway drugs between traditional pub snacks and modern crisp culture. These bizarrely addictive prawn cocktail-flavoured corn snacks produced by Smiths since the 1970s somehow taste nothing like scampi, yet everything like concentrated pub essence if you could fry it. The flavour profile defies logical description. Simultaneously fishy and not fishy, with chemical tang suggesting seafood without actually encountering it. The texture: light, crispy corn puffs dissolving on tongues, leaving coatings part sugar, part MSG, part indefinably marine, is engineered for maximum addiction. The smell, however, is most distinctive. Opening bags could clear 3-foot bar radii, creating personal space in crowded pubs. What's genuinely remarkable is their survival. While other 1970s snacks died out, these fluorescent orange fingers of dubious seafood flavouring remained largely unchanged for 50 years. They've survived health trends, craft crisp revolution, multiple recessions. The secret might be perfect pub compatibility. Salty enough, encouraging drinking. Strong flavoured enough, cutting through beer. Cheap enough that buying rounds doesn't bankrupt you. They're also surprisingly vegetarian suitable, containing no actual seafood. The scampi flavour is entirely artificial, a triumph of British chemical engineering. They're everything wrong with processed food, yet somehow completely right. KP nuts, specifically dry roasted peanuts in distinctive blue bags, weren't just pub snacks, they were pub furniture, essential as beer mats and fruit machines. These weren't ordinary peanuts, but nuggets coated in mysterious powder, supposedly containing yeast extract, onion powder, and enough MSG triggering flavour explosions. Modern clean-eating advocates would find horrifying. The coating process is genuinely fascinating. Nuts tumbled in rotating drums while sprayed with flavouring solution, then blast heated, creating distinctive crunchy shells, turning fingers orange and breath into weapons. The original 1953 recipe allegedly contained 20 different spices and flavourings, though the exact formula remains secret. What we know, they contained enough salt to preserve corpses and artificial flavouring masking questionable peanut quality. Social hierarchy of pub nuts was rigid: dry roasted for regulars, salted for traditionalists, honey roasted for people who couldn't be trusted. Cardboard strips holding individual bags created impromptu displays, becoming pub decoration. KP's dominance declined not from health concerns but premiumisation. Suddenly pubs offered wasabi peas, honey chili cashews, gourmet nuts costing triple. Yet nothing matches the nostalgic punch of tearing open KP dry roasted bags and getting first hits of that indefinable, probably carcinogenic, absolutely delicious coating. They were chemistry sets you could eat. Frazzles represent British food science's greatest achievement. Corn snacks tasting more like bacon than actual bacon, without containing single pork molecules. These striped, bacon-shaped crisps have fooled taste buds since 1975, using smoke flavouring, yeast extract, and mysterious bacon flavour, creating illusions so convincing vegetarians often double-check packets. Manufacturing process reads like science fiction. Corn extruded into bacon strip shapes, complete with visual striping suggesting fat marbling. They're fried, then dusted with flavouring so potent it penetrates sealed bags, announcing presence to everyone within 10-foot radii. Taste delivers smoky, salty, vaguely meaty punches, triggering every bacon receptor, despite being vegetarian suitable. It's cognitive dissonance in snack form. What's remarkable? Frazzles remained virtually unchanged while the world went artisan and organic. They're testament that sometimes artificial beats real. Real bacon crisps exist, made with actual bacon, yet they're nowhere near as bacony as Frazzles. Its snack equivalent of Uncanny Valley, where simulation became more real than reality. They survived because they filled specific niches, bacon flavour at bacon intensity without bacon's inconveniences like cost, cooking, or actual meat. They're beautiful lies we tell our taste buds, and our taste buds thank us for it. In a world demanding authenticity, Frazzles proudly remain gloriously fake. Twiglets are the crisp world's Marmite, literally being yeast extract coated, representing ultimate polarizing pub snacks dividing friends, families, entire communities. These whole wheat sticks, resembling tiny charred branches from dystopian forests, have traumatized and delighted British palates since 1929. Texture is deliberately challenging, dense, whole wheat crunches requiring commitment and strong teeth. But flavor truly separates believers from heathens. Yeast extract coating delivers umami bombs simultaneously, salty, tangy, slightly burnt, with aftertastes lingering hours. They're snack equivalents of difficult albums requiring multiple listens before you either love or confirm hatred. Psychology behind Twiglet consumption fascinates. Often last snacks left in variety packs, sitting forlornly while everything else gets devoured. Yet devoted followings specifically seek them out, viewing them as sophisticated compared to regular crisps. Surviving nearly a century through wars, recessions, healthy eating revolutions suggests they've tapped something fundamental in British psyche. Appreciation for things deliberately difficult to enjoy. Their culinary masochism, exactly why they endure. While other snacks court mass appeal, Twiglets stand proud in their divisiveness. They don't want to be loved by everyone, just by the right people. In uniformity-demanding worlds, they remain defiantly difficult. These 15 edible time capsules weren't just snacks, they were social lubricants, class identifiers, and cultural touchstones defining British pub culture. From pickled eggs preventing Victorian hangovers to Twiglets still dividing nations, they represented eras when pubs were community centres, not gastropubs. If this nostalgic journey made you long for days when pub snacks doubled as weapons and nobody photographed food, hit subscribe and ring the notification bell. Until next time, raise a glass to the humble pickled egg. Cheers.